let us talk about another game that I finished. You are quite far, but not quite. You haven't quite hit credits yet, but we did talk about it briefly last week. Mortal Kombat 1. I've since rolled credits in this game, and let me tell you, it does not disappoint in the bullshit department. It is, it is as silly as you think it will be. And I mean, we knew this when we spoke about it last week. We had both played a couple chapters, and it's already very clear that it's Mortal Kombat. It's cheesy as hell, and they lean into that, and that's not a bad thing. But I guess it is just worth recapping. If you did miss our initial discussion, Mortal Kombat 1 is I don't know why, but a franchise reboot again.
Of course, it has to be. Like, why not?
If we're recapping here quickly, like there was a soft reboot with Mortal Kombat. It was just called Mortal Kombat, but it's technically Mortal Kombat 9 in 2011. And that recapped the events of the first, second, and third game with some twists. And then Mortal Kombat 10 and 11 basically picked up that story and carried it forward. But at the end of 11, Liu Kang basically
made it ridiculously convoluted as well.
Super convoluted. But at the end of 11, Liu Kang basically became, I don't know what the right term is, but like, for lack of a better description,
Fire God.
No, he became like the master of time. Like he rebuilt all the dimensions and that's where Mortal Kombat 1 kicks off. It's basically like a fresh start, but of course in this fresh start there are a lot of familiar faces, and I think the exciting thing going into this game is seeing like, okay, how will NetherRealm like subvert our expectations? Like, we're expecting this kind of story. What are they going to change? And I don't know. The story still boils down to shit's going down. There's all the familiar faces you'd expect, maybe with slightly different roles. Like, I think the most obvious one is, as you mentioned, Liu Kang's a fire god. Where does it leave Raiden? Oh, Raiden's now just an innocent monk who gets lightning powers. Like, oh no. Who would have,
like, oh my god,
who would have seen that one coming?
This?
You still get Johnny Cage and Kung Lao and all these familiar faces you'd expect. And I think going to the story, I was excited to see like, oh, well, cool. Like it's a fresh start. Let's see where they take this. And without getting to spoilers, there's just some eye-rolling moments, which is to be expected, no doubt. But I'm a bit disappointed that the story, like I say disappointed, like I was grinning the whole time because it's cheesy, but it's a sort of thing I appreciate because I'm like, man, I can't believe you've done this. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, like you could have done something different. Like, I can't believe you've done this. I wish it was a bit different how they tackle things. But still, if you want to play the story mode, it's always a good time. Like, I love the whole thing of watching a dumb cinematic playing, watching more dumb cinematics playing. It is a bit short. Like, I don't know how it compares to...
It is quite, yeah.
Why do I think that previous games have been in the 8 to 10 hour region? I don't know if that's me not remembering correctly.
I don't know. When I hit the halfway mark, because you get a trophy pop that says you're halfway, I was like, oh, really? Like, I feel like I've barely played this. So.
I think this story is 6 hours long, which, again, like, that's a fighting game. I don't think you explicitly picking it up for the story, but just to put a disclaimer, like, don't rush out and buy this only for the story because it is very short. Like, you will be, I think, severely disappointed when you just roll through it in one evening. You're like, like that was
also I think I mentioned this to you, I don't know if it was on the podcast, but it feels easy. Like, there are different difficulty modes now, but the standard one is really easy.
I think even especially like when you get over the learning curve, it's like it's very easy to pick up and play. But I think after the first few chapters, by the end of the game, like I was just absolutely blitzing through enemies. But I suppose we can touch on it. Like, I do really like the new cameo system. So again, if you don't know, Mortal Kombat 1 has a new mechanic where you basically have a second fighter with you off screen at all times, and you can call them in to help you with a button press. Literally, you can push R1 and they'll come in and do an attack, or you can push forward and R1, it'll do a different attack. And that's tied to a meter that constantly refreshes throughout the fight. And I think, like I mentioned before, I think that's a very clever inclusion. Because Mortal Kombat's I think it's a very easy game to just pick up and play. Even if you're a beginner, like you can button mash and you'll do stuff.
The dialer combo like approach is way more like mentally easier to grasp than a Street Fighter.
But it's you're gonna push like down, forward, punch. It'll probably do something or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the cameo system just helps bridge the gap even better for beginners, because like now you can literally do a move with just one button press. And at the same time, like if you're a veteran player, you can use those cameo attacks to extend your combos or do other cool things. So I think it's just a clever inclusion. Like I like it, is what I'm getting at. And I do wonder, when you do get to Mortal Kombat 2 or 13 or whatever the hell they call it, do they ditch the cameo system and go back to something more classic, or do they go, actually, this really worked, let's keep it in for future games?
I know this is probably like, I don't know, controversial, but it's counter to what I've seen a lot of people saying, but I much prefer this cameo system to the like customizable build system of 11. It's like every character has 3 variations. I'm like, I know.
We know, I know like Darren and Jeff and Curve and friends of ours have said like, no, they miss that system. I wasn't big enough into Mortal Kombat 11 to tell you that like I desperately miss it. I really dig the cameo system, and for better or worse,
I felt like what that system did wasn't give each character 3 definite like builds. It actually took one character and stripped them into 3. So it felt like I always felt like I had fewer moves as each character, as opposed to like a full move set that I feel that I have here. So I mean, I might be wrong again. I'm just like you. I'm coming at this from a very surface level approach. I don't play this stuff competitively, but I can tell from a perspective of what I think a lot of people will be who play Mortal Kombat. Because like Mortal Kombat 11 sold 15 million copies. You're going to tell me that 15 million people are big FGC or fighting game, professionals? Probably not. A lot of people are there for the story, and I think that's why the story is very important. So like, if you can make the game feel better and approachable for the majority of casual fighters, I think that's like quite important. But obviously the legs of a fighting game are built on competitive play, so we'll see how this goes down with that community. It
is interesting though, because I think Mortal Kombat's biggest flaw at this stage is that it launched in the same year as Street Fighter 6, which is which, like, again, context, like, I'm not a huge fighting game fan. Like, I love fighting games, but I'm not hardcore big into them. Like, I'll play them very casually. And Street Fighter's a franchise like I've dabbled with on and off over my entire lifetime. But I can't tell you, like, I'm a big Street Fighter fan, like Jeff, for example. We know Jeff like loves Street Fighter. But I can tell you that Street Fighter 6 has definitely left a bigger impression on me this year. Like, the game just feels like better subjective, I guess. Like, I don't know what sort of fighting game you prefer, but I think as an overall package, Street Fighter 6 just feels better to me. The Street Fighter 6's story mode is equally, if not more, dumb. Like, it's got a whole RPG system, whatever, but I love playing through it. Street Fighter 6 has me wanting to go back and do random fights, whereas Mortal Kombat, I feel like I finished it. Might hop on to play with you and other friends if that ever happens. But if I had to choose one or the other, like, I'm sorry, Street Fighter 6 is the one that I would probably choose. It just feels like a better package overall. Like, and again, maybe that's subjective. I don't know. Like, I'm sure you'll have Mortal Kombat fans going like, no, Mortal Kombat 1 is better for X, Y, Z reason. And again, that's not to say that Mortal Kombat's a bad fighting game. I just think it doesn't feel as refined or as complete as a Street Fighter. And it's not its fault. It just happened to launch in the same year. Like, if Mortal Kombat came out as the only fighting game in a year or whatever, like, I think it would have just left a better impression. But playing it 3 months after Street Fighter 6, I'm like, it's just not as good.
It's the Legend of Zelda Horizon problem again.
100%.
2 games that are completely good in their own right, but because they come out so close, you're going to compare
them side by side. You go like, nope, Street Fighter's the better game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Mortal Kombat 1, it is a fun game. Like I can recommend if you want to play the story mode, like don't get me wrong, it's really good, but it is short. So just keep that in mind if you are gonna.
I will say for the story mode, I mean I'm not done with it yet, but the thing that I've really liked about it is just how they've recontextualized some characters. Like I think where they're putting all these characters and where they're heading, and it being like a very similar scenario to previous games, given that they had a blank slate, is kind of disappointing.
Yes.
It seems even disappointing to Liu Kang, who thought it would go differently. But in amongst that, the character changes are like really good. Like I really, really like Johnny Cage, even though he's kind of a similar character. He's just got way more depth to him, and I really dig him. I love what they did with Baraka and how they contextualize like why he looks different and how it's a disease and this and that. And then just Sub-Zero and Scorpion being brothers gives them way more depth as well as characters.
Yeah.
It's cool. But they also do some typical bullshit like, oh, Quan Chi doesn't have white skin, and then, oh, now he has white skin. This is how he got that. Or like, Kenshi's not blind when you first see him, and oh, it turns out
Spoiler,
he will get blind eventually. It's like, come on, man. We don't have to get the characters back to exactly where they were. That's not the point. Like,
but even that, it's like, I know the game's called Mortal Kombat. Don't get me wrong. There has to be this tournament. But they straight up put you in, and Liu Kang's like, there's this tournament called Mortal Kombat happening. And it's like, you just reset the timelines to like, to stop this conflict from happening. Like, surely, I almost would have preferred if it was like, him trying to prevent it, and then you see like no matter what he does, it still happens. But they just straight up put you in like he's choosing fighters for Mortal Kombat. I'm like, why?
Essentially,
surely.
And the whole like idea is he's like, well, we've got this like shaky truce with everyone, and everyone respects one another, and this tournament is just a means to keep the peace. And it's like, okay, this is not going to go down well. Surely you can see that. Like,
I'm like, I would have much preferred if they like again just I don't know. It's almost like, remember the original, this sounds ridiculous, the original Mortal Kombat reboot. Okay, Mortal Kombat 9, technically. Did you play that one?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you remember that was like future Raiden sends a message to original Raiden. A
message back, yeah.
And then original Raiden's like, oh shit, like this happens, I need to try to change this. And no matter what he does, like it still ends up happening. I almost would have liked,
worse, yeah.
I would have almost preferred something like that where Liu Kang's like, no Mortal Kombat in this new timeline, and then no matter what he does, it happens. But it's just the fact that they literally start you off like, there's a tournament. I'm like, why? If I'm Liu Kang, I'm going to go, no tournaments. This isn't going to happen anymore.
Yeah. And his justification is like, oh, I got rid of like key people who are troublemakers. I'm like, okay, cool. So you got rid of Quan Chi, got rid of Shang Tsung.
But
firstly, they end up exactly where where you were trying to prevent them from getting. So that, like, good job.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you're going to remove those people, why did you leave Shao Kahn? Like, that is the biggest glaring omission, because from the moment you see him, you can tell he is not vibing with like this whole shaky truce thing. Like, he is literally threatening it from the get-go. And it's just like,
for all intents and purposes, his first line of dialogue is like, fuck Earthrealm. And we're like, oh my
literally,
God.
literally. And it's like, okay, so why did you leave this guy here to just chill? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Maybe we're asking too many questions. You see, a story that is good. Listen, I'm still preferring the story much more to 11, because I thought 11 was absolute bullshit. The whole time travel chronic and nonsense, where they got like, it was just nonsense, just absolute bullshit. So I've much preferred this one.
Yeah.
And I'm still planning to finish it. I've like I was saying earlier, Mortal Kombat to me is the reason a lot more casual people are playing fighting games, because with that reboot in 2011, they figured out a way to market it to normal people. Is not what I meant to say, but to market it to casual fighting people. I never played fighting games because I just didn't. But I saw Mortal Kombat 9, and they were like, "Oh, we've got this revolutionary new story mode."
And it was.
Blah blah blah.
It
played
really
it,
good.
and I loved it. Yeah. And since then, I bought every Mortal Kombat. I have not done that for any other fighting game, but I've done that for Mortal Kombat, and you can tell in the sales figures that it's working. It's 3 million for 9, 10 million for 10, 15 million for 11. Mortal Kombat 11 is the highest selling fighting game outside of Smash Bros.
Which is crazy.
And if you talk to Jeff, that makes it the highest ranking fighting game of all time because he doesn't think Smash Bros is a fighting game. So like, and that comes through because more casual people are playing it. Like Street Fighter 6 is not going to reach that. No. I can tell you
it'll
right
sell,
now it's not even going to get close.
Yeah. Listen.
Despite being a better game.
Listen, so, forget Mortal Kombat 1. Play Street Fighter for the dumb RPG mode. It was too good.
I really should play that. I really
I had a great time with that. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 1, it's a good time.